Hi folks, and welcome to our video today. My name is Melanie Zukowski and I'm one of the safety advisors with the MaidSafe team. Today we're going to be talking to you about your racking inspection procedures and what you need to look for in your facility to make sure that your racking is as safe as possible. To get us started today, we want to have a couple of pieces of equipment available to make this inspection possible. The first thing we're going to use is your handy dandy inspection template. This is available from MaidSafe. If you don't have something in place, let us know. We can hook you up with our template. And this is going to take us through exactly what we're looking for in that inspection. The next two pieces of equipment that we need are our feeler gauge. We'll explain that in a little bit, as well as a straight edge of some sort. One of the key things you're looking for with this straight edge is making sure that it's the right piece of equipment for your racking. You'll see here, I can measure against this piece of racking, no problem at all. But when I try to measure against this piece of racking, based on how those beams are set up, it's not gonna fit flush against that racking. I would want about 27 inches for this one, or 2 foot straight edge to be able to do the job properly with this particular racking. Make sure you have the equipment that fits your facility and your job. As you're inspecting your racking, we have a few components with that racking that we want to make sure that we are checking. First up is our shelving. Make sure that it is the appropriate shelving. Make sure that it is intact, doing the job you need it to do. One of our rules that we make sure to pay attention to is for forklift racking, we cannot have a solid shelf. It has to be a wire shelf so that in the case of a fire emergency, when your sprinklers go off, that water can go through those shelves instead of collecting. We want to make sure that our sprinkler systems can still do their job. The next thing we're going to be looking at are our bollards. You can see them on the floor here, making sure those are in place, that they are intact, and that they're not damaged so that they can continue to protect your posts the way that they are meant to. For our racking, as we're inspecting, we're going to be looking at our front uprights and upright columns, as well as our braces in between to measure and check the damage. We'll get into the exact measurements that we are looking for on those next. As we're looking at our inspection sheet, we know the damage that we're allowed to have or that we are looking for in that racking is listed on our sheet by those categories depending on our parts. For our upright frame columns, we're allowed to have less than 5 millimeters before we want to offload that racking and make sure those parts get replaced. For our front upright columns, less than 3 millimeters. And for our diagonal and horizontal braces here on the inside, we can have less than 10 millimeters on those. You guys don't need to memorize those pieces because they are all detailed on that inspection sheet for you. And this measurement is where our feeler gauge comes into play. For this feeler gauge, you can pick it up at everyone's favorite parts supply store, Princess Auto, or any hardware store should have one. The full feeler gauge is going to be that 10 millimeter depth to measure. For mine, I've color coded it just with a permanent marker. You can use what works for you. This is my 5 millimeters, and I've got it marked in green. This is my 3 millimeters. When we are measuring this, hold our straight edge against our racking, like so. And we're gonna look to see if there's any dents where we can fit that 3 millimeter, 5 millimeter, or 10 millimeter feeler gauge to measure the depth of that damage. Depending on the part that we are talking about, that 3 millimeter, 5 millimeter, or 10 millimeter is gonna let us know when we need to offload and repair that racking. The last measurement that we're gonna talk about is our beam deflection. For that, you'll need your tape measure or to know the schematics of your pallet racking in your facility. This particular beam is 100 inches. The way we measure beam deflection is to take the length of our beam divided by 180 to give us a number. In this case, it's 0.55. That would be the maximum allowable beam deflection. So we would measure our height from the floor at the edge of our beam and from the floor at the center of our beam, and we would be looking for less than 0.55 inches in difference between those two sections. When you have damage in your racking, it doesn't always mean replacing all of that racking. You can see here, the solution is to have an engineered repair made, a piece to secure that damage in the racking, the dent that is behind here, to make sure that it's safe to continue using still has the same load bearing capacity. Our engineer has made sure that this is the right fit and is going to keep our racking where it's supposed to be. For this set of racking, we've got some beam deflection that is evident. We can see that bowing across. So we're going to take a minute and measure this one. It's a 100-inch beam again. So dividing by 180, that gives us our 0.55. We're 53.5 at the edge. And about 53.25 in the center, which gives us a 1/4 of an inch difference, well within that 0.55 inches we had for beam deflection, meaning that this is perfectly safe to carry on. Okay, let's give her. Can you hear me? I'm good. Perfect. I was like, yeah, that's, what do I say first? Don't include all that stuff. Okay. For that beam deflection. Do you want me to do that one again?